You're 50. Your retirement account is basically empty, and every financial video you've ever clicked on feels like it was made for someone who is not you. Someone who started at 25, someone whose employer matched generously, someone who never had a divorce or a medical bill, or a period where just keeping the lights on was the whole financial plan. That is not this video. This is the step-by-step sequence for the person who is starting late, knows it, and needs a real plan right now. Not inspiration, not history, a sequence, in order, starting this week. And here is what I need you to hear in the first 30 seconds. You are not too late, but you are out of time to waste. So let's move. Before we get into it, I know what the voice in your head is saying right now. It's too late for me. The math doesn't work. I should have started 20 years ago. Here is what I need you to understand. A 50-year-old who follows the right sequence, not perfectly, not without setbacks, but consistently and in order, can retire with genuine stability. Not luxury, stability. No choosing between the electric bill and groceries. No calling your kids for help at 74. The difference between the person who gets there and the person who doesn't is not income. It's not luck. It's the order of the steps. 5 steps. Each one unlocks the next. Let's go.
Here is the roadmap. I want you to see all 5 steps before we go deep on any of them. Step 1, the audit. Know your real starting number because it is almost never actually zero. Step 2, stop the bleeding. Find the hidden money you didn't know you had and give yourself an immediate raise. Step 3, go on offense. Grow the income and, for the right person, use the one move that can fund a retirement almost overnight. Step 4, deploy the catch-up tools. The IRS built specific weapons for people over 50. Most people have no idea they exist. Step 5, protect what you build. How to invest as a late starter without a market crash erasing everything. These are in this order on purpose. Skip one, the whole plan breaks. Let's start the clock. Step 1, the audit, your real starting number. It is almost never actually zero. First thing I need you to do, and this costs nothing and takes about 20 minutes, is build a clear picture of where you actually stand. Not the scary number in your head, the real number. Because here's what I've seen over and over again. People arrive at 50 convinced they have nothing, and when they actually sit down and look, the real number is scattered and disorganized, but it is not zero. 3 things to look at right now. 1, home equity. If you own a home, pull up what it's worth today and subtract what you still owe. That gap is a real asset. For a lot of 50-year-olds, that number is sitting somewhere between $150,000 and $300,000. It's not liquid, but it exists, and we are going to talk about exactly what to do with it. Now, if you are renting right now, do not click away. Not owning a home does not disqualify you from this plan. It actually gives you something a homeowner doesn't have: complete mobility. When we get to step 3, that mobility becomes your secret weapon. More on that in a minute. 2, forgotten retirement accounts. Think about every job you have ever had. Is there a 401k from a company you left in 2009? A small IRA you opened and never looked at? These exist more often than people realize. A forgotten account that's been quietly compounding for 15 years might surprise you. Go find them. 3, your Social Security projection. This is the most important 5-minute task in this entire video. Go to ssa.gov, pause this video and do it right after if you need to, and pull up your earnings estimate. The number you see there changes the math of everything we talk about today, because for a late starter, Social Security is not a supplement, it is a foundational pillar, and we are going to use it strategically. Here's the reframe I want you to carry into the rest of this video. Your real starting number is almost never zero. It's just never been organized into one place before right now. Now that you know what you have, let's talk about where the hidden money is. Step 2 is where this gets interesting, because we are not talking about cutting lattes. We are about to find money you didn't know you had. Think of this as giving yourself an immediate raise without changing your job.
Step 2. Stop the bleeding, the debt triage, and the hidden money. You don't have a savings problem yet. You have a cash flow problem. Fix this first. I want to start with a rule that sounds backwards until you see the math. If you are carrying high-interest consumer debt, credit cards, personal loans, you do not aggressively invest beyond your employer match yet. Here is why. Paying off a credit card that is charging you 24% interest is a guaranteed 24% return. No market can promise you that. The debt payoff is the investment. Now, before you think, but I need to be saving, here's your priority ladder, in exact order. First, and this is non-negotiable, always capture the full employer match on your 401k. If your employer matches your contributions, that's the only free money left in the financial system. Take every dollar of it, always, even while you're paying down debt. The match comes first. Second, after the match, attack every high-interest debt above roughly 8% with maximum aggression. Highest interest rate first. This is the priority before any additional investing. Third, only after the high-interest debt is gone does the full catch-up plan activate. We will get there in step 4.
I've talked before about debt-burdened Dan versus debt-free Diana. Same income, same savings, completely different retirement outcomes, because Dan is sending hundreds of dollars every month to a credit card company in interest, money that will never compound, money that is working for the bank, not for Dan. At 50, that is a retirement emergency. Now, the hidden money. Somewhere in your monthly spending, right now, there is money. I'm not going to tell you to cut coffee. I'm going to show you where it actually lives. 3 places. Convenience spending. When you're busy, you pay for speed constantly. Delivery fees, forgotten subscriptions, the small recurring charges you enrolled in 3 years ago and never canceled. Go through your last 2 months of credit card statements this weekend. Set aside an hour. Do it with your partner if you have one. More on that in a moment. This category quietly costs most households hundreds of dollars per month more than they realize. Car payments. This is the single most common cash flow drain I see at this age. If you are carrying 1 or 2 car payments right now, there is a version of this where you pay off a vehicle, drive it for 3 more years, and redirect that payment directly into a retirement account. That single move can free up $400 to $600 per month. Recurring fees for things you no longer actively use. Gym memberships, streaming services, insurance policies you haven't reviewed in years. Look at the line items, be honest. The math on even a modest monthly redirect is genuinely striking. Put that number on screen and let it land. Every single month matters. One more thing before we leave step 2. If you are married or in a long-term partnership, this step only works if you are both on board. I know that sounds obvious, but it is one of the most common ways good plans quietly fall apart. The debt triage doesn't work if only one of you is committed. The expense audit becomes a fight instead of a strategy if you haven't aligned first. Here is what I'd suggest. After this video, watch it again together tonight. Decide together which step you're starting with this week. Because if one of you is building and the other isn't, the math doesn't add up. It's that simple.
Step 3. Go on offense. Income first, geo arbitrage for the right person. Defense gets you stable. Offense gets you there. Cutting expenses is a defense. It matters enormously. But defense only works up to a ceiling. At some point, you cannot cut anymore. The real accelerator is income growth. And here's the thing that is genuinely true about being 50 that nobody gives you enough credit for. You have 25 years of skills, reputation, and experience that a 25-year-old simply cannot buy. That is worth money, often significantly more than you are currently being paid for it. 3 income levers specific to where you are right now. Lever 1, the career window. Peak earning years in America are roughly 45 to 55. Most people coast through this without ever pushing on it.
If you haven't negotiated your salary in the last 2 years, that is your homework this quarter. A meaningful raise at 50, redirected entirely into your retirement plan, can be genuinely transformative over 15 years. Lever 2, income from expertise. This is the one I want you to sit with. You have a career, you have skills, and there is almost certainly a market for what you know outside of your current employer. Consulting, freelance work, coaching, advising, whatever your field is. I'm not talking about a second full-time job. I'm talking about an extra $1,000 to $2,000 per month from skills you already have. At this stage of life, that is not a side hustle. That is a retirement accelerator. And here's something worth saying directly to the person who feels stuck. Most 50-year-olds find it far more realistic to start a consulting engagement in their own industry than to pick up and move across the country. Your expertise is your most accessible lever. Use it. Lever 3, working 2 to 3 years longer as a deliberate choice. I know, bear with me for 30 seconds. Working to 67 instead of 65 is not giving up on retirement. It is playing the hand you have professionally. Here's what those 2 years actually do simultaneously. Your portfolio gets 24 more months to grow without any withdrawals. Your Social Security benefit increases significantly, and the total number of years your money has to last gets shorter. You are compressing the problem from 3 directions at once. That is strategy, not surrender. Now, geo-arbitrage, the extreme option. For the right person, this is the fastest legal financial acceleration available. I want to give it to you clearly, but I also want to be honest that it is not for everyone. Here is the concept. Where you live determines how far every dollar goes in retirement. If you own a home with significant equity in a high-cost state, the gap between where you live now and where you could live is not a small gap. Sell a home with $250,000 in equity, buy outright in a lower-cost market, eliminate the mortgage, potentially have cash left over to put directly into a retirement portfolio. Your ongoing costs drop, your required withdrawal rate drops, your retirement date moves closer. If your family, your job, or your roots make moving impossible, completely valid. Lean harder on lever 2. Your expertise income is your version of this move. And if you're a renter, remember what I said in step 1. You have 0 transaction costs and complete mobility. For you, this option is faster and cheaper than for anyone else in this video.
Now, here's the part where the IRS actually tries to help you. I know that sentence sounds insane, but these tools were specifically built for people who are starting later, and most people have no idea they exist. Step 4. Deploy the catch-up tools, the tiered savings system. These are the weapons. Here is exactly how to use them. Before I give you the tiers, one critical framing point. What I'm about to show you is not where you start, it is where you are headed. Over the next 3 to 5 years, as the debt clears and the income grows, this is the destination. The entry point is Tier 1, this week. The destination is the full system. Do not let the full picture overwhelm the first step. Tier 1, this week. Go into your 401k and increase your contribution to at least capture the full employer match. If your employer matches, take every dollar of it. For most people, this means contributing an extra $100 to $200 per month in reduced take-home pay. That is the Tier 1 move. Do it this week, not this month, this week. Tier 2, 6-month target. Open a Roth IRA if you don't have one. In 2026, people over 50 get an enhanced contribution limit. Contribution limit appears on screen. Walt Weiss keeps talking about the benefit, does not read the number. Why Roth for a late starter specifically? Every dollar in a Roth grows tax-free. It comes out tax-free. No required minimum distributions forcing you to take money you don't need yet. For someone who needs maximum efficiency from every single dollar, the Roth is one of the most powerful tools available.
Your 6-month target is to work toward maxing this account as the debt payoff frees up cash. Think of strategic Sandra. Sandra doesn't open a Roth because she's a finance expert. She opens it because someone told her it was the most tax-efficient thing she could do with $200 a month. 15 years later, that decision quietly becomes one of the best she ever made. Tier 3, 3 to 5 year destination. As high-interest debt disappears and income grows, begin maximizing the 401k catch-up contribution. The IRS gives people over 50 a significantly higher limit than younger contributors, by design. This is the government acknowledging that late starters need a bigger runway. The full 401k catch-up number appears on screen. Walt Weiss does not read it. Let the graphic land. That is the destination, and the compounding math of reaching it, even by 55, is remarkable. Compounding growth result appears on screen. Keep talking about the feeling, not the number. This is why Step 2 matters so much. Every dollar you free up through the debt triage and expense audit is a dollar that can now go here and do that. Bonus weapon, the HSA. If you have access to a high-deductible health plan, the HSA is the most tax-efficient account in the U.S. tax code. 3 tax advantages stacked on top of each other. Money goes in pre-tax, grows tax-free, comes out tax-free for healthcare costs. After 65, it works like a regular retirement account for any expense. Contribute the maximum. Invest it, don't let it sit in cash. And here's the strategic play. Don't spend it unless you have to. Let it build. Because the biggest expense you are going to face in retirement is healthcare, and this account was built specifically to fight that battle. Which brings me to something this video absolutely cannot skip.
Step 5. The healthcare gap, the retirement threat nobody mentions. There is a gap, a very expensive, very real gap that sits between the day you retire and the day Medicare kicks in at 65. Here is what it looks like in practice. You follow this entire plan. You were disciplined. You retire at 62. You feel great. And then you get your first individual health insurance quote. We're talking somewhere between $800 and $1,800 per month, depending on your state and plan level. 3 years of that, before you buy a single grocery, is a significant 5-figure drain directly out of your retirement portfolio. And that's before dental, which Medicare largely doesn't cover, vision, which Medicare largely doesn't cover, hearing aids, same story. For a late starter especially, this gap is not an inconvenience. It can be retirement threatening if it isn't planned for. Here's how you think about it. Option 1, work until 65. I know, but those extra years do 3 things simultaneously. Eliminate the insurance gap, grow your portfolio, and increase your Social Security benefit. 3 problems, 1 decision. Option 2, retire at 63, use COBRA for 18 months to bridge to Medicare. More expensive than employer coverage, but predictable. Option 3, if your early retirement income is structured carefully, ACA marketplace subsidies may significantly reduce that premium. This requires tax planning in advance, worth a conversation with a fee-only advisor before you set a retirement date. The point is this. Your retirement date is not just a financial number, it is a healthcare decision. And a late starter who cannot afford to lose tens of thousands of dollars in the first years of retirement needs to know this before they pull the trigger. Here is where most people in your situation make the single most dangerous investing mistake of this entire plan. And it is not what you think. It is not investing too little. It is investing the wrong way for where you actually are. Step 5B, protect what you build, the late starter investment strategy. You cannot invest like a 25-year-old. Here is why, and here is the fix. I want to talk about something called sequence of returns risk. 30 seconds, stay with me. A 25-year-old who starts investing and hits a major market crash at 28 has 35 years for the market to recover. They barely notice. Future contributions buy in at lower prices. The crash is almost an advantage. A 55-year-old who just started building seriously 5 years ago and hits that same 40% crash, they have no such runway. And if they're forced to sell investments at those depressed prices just to pay bills, they lock in those losses permanently. The market recovers, but they sold at the bottom. They don't benefit from the comeback. That specific danger is what we are building against right now. The solution is called the 3-bucket strategy, and I want to explain it the way strategic Sandra understands it, not the way a textbook does. Bucket 1 is Sandra's safety net, 1 to 2 years of living expenses in a high-yield savings account. This money is never invested, it is never touched for anything except living expenses when Sandra needs it. It is her shield. Bucket 2 is Sandra's stability layer, 3 to 7 years of expenses in bonds, dividend stocks, short-term treasuries. It generates income. It refills Bucket 1 when Bucket 1 gets low. It does its job quietly. Bucket 3 is Sandra's growth engine, broad market index funds, S&P 500, total market. This is where compound growth happens over the long term. Here is why this works for Sandra specifically. When the market drops 30%, and at some point over a 30-year retirement, it will, Sandra does not panic sell. She does not liquidate at the bottom to pay her electric bill. Her electric bill is already covered by Bucket 1. Her next 7 years of living expenses are covered by Bucket 2. So Sandra does what a calm, rational investor does. Nothing. She goes back to her crossword, she watches the news, and her retirement is completely intact. Bucket 3 can grow aggressively because Buckets 1 and 2 are doing their job. That's the design. That's why this works for a late starter when going 100% conservative in bonds would slowly destroy purchasing power over 30 years. One more piece of this picture. When Social Security kicks in at 67, and we are about to talk about why 67 is the number, it essentially becomes your permanent Bucket 1 replacement. It shows up every single month whether the market is up, down, or sideways. That guaranteed income changes the job your portfolio has to do. Instead of generating all of your income from withdrawals, your portfolio's job becomes supplementing a guaranteed floor. That's a completely different and far more manageable situation.
The Social Security decision. For a late starter, this single choice could be worth more than $100,000 over your lifetime. Here is the Social Security decision in plain language. You can claim as early as 62. Claim at 62 and you receive a permanently reduced benefit, roughly 30% less than your full amount. Claim at 67, you get your full benefit. Claim at 70, you get the maximum, significantly higher than the full benefit. Look at that difference on screen. Now imagine that difference arriving every single month for the rest of your life, indexed to inflation. For a late starter who has not had decades to build a massive portfolio, that monthly difference is not minor. That is guaranteed inflation-adjusted income you cannot outlive, doing the work that your portfolio cannot fully do on its own. The strategy for most late starters is clear. Delay to at least 67. Let the portfolio and the income from Step 3 carry you from your retirement date to your claiming date. Then let Social Security cover the foundational expenses permanently. Write that down. Make it a rule. Do not negotiate with yourself on this one.
Here is where you are. You are 50, you have less saved than you want, and you just absorbed more actionable retirement information in the last 15 minutes than most people get in a decade of half-reading articles on the subject. That is not nothing. That is a real head start on the version of you who clicked away. Let me give you the sequence one more time, clean and fast. Step 1, the audit. SSA.gov this week. Pull the estimate, add up the real net worth, including home equity and any forgotten accounts. Know your actual starting number. Step 2, stop the bleeding. Build the debt priority ladder. Employer match first, always. Then attack high-interest debt with everything you have. Run the expense audit with your partner. Find the hidden money. Step 3, go on offense. Push on the income. Ask for the raise. Start the consulting work. Run the geo arbitrage numbers on your home equity. Even if you don't act on it right now, know the number. Step 4, deploy the catch-up tools. Tier 1 this week, full employer match. Tier 2 within 6 months, open the Roth IRA. Tier 3 over 3 to 5 years, maximize the catch-up contributions. Let the graphics from earlier be your reference. Step 5, protect what you build. Build the 3 buckets. Let bucket 3 grow because buckets 1 and 2 are holding your near-term cash. Plan for the healthcare gap before you set a retirement date, and delay Social Security to at least 67. That is the rule. If you execute this sequence, not perfectly, not without setbacks, but consistently and in order, you are not heading for a crisis retirement. You are heading for a level 3 retirement, stable, debt-free, with a portfolio doing its job and a guaranteed income floor that holds regardless of what the market does. That is not a small thing. That is everything you clicked on this video for.
If this gave you an actual starting point, not just motivation, an actual plan, hit the like button. It genuinely helps VaultWise reach the people who need this most, and there are a lot of them. Subscribe if you're not already here, because next week we are breaking down the 3-bucket strategy in full detail. That is the withdrawal system that protects everything you just committed to building. You are going to want that one. And drop a comment below. Tell me your age and the one step you are taking this week. Not planning to take, taking this week. I read every single comment, and I want to hear where you are starting from. Take care of your money, it'll take care of you. See you in the next one.